Linda Saldana is a former journalist and escaped tech writer, now finding truth in fiction around and about the San Francisco Bay Area. Linda's work has been published, performed, and yes, rejected by some excellent literary venues. She could come up with a more detailed narrative arc, but she'd rather just tell you a story. Please put your hands together for Linda Saldana.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm going to tell you a few stories and an actual rhyming poem. First one, here we are again. Here we are again, said the redwood. What do you mean again, said the oak. We never moved. Exactly, here we are again, said the redwood. Every day it's here, 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 said the oak. I'm bored. I'd rather be down there. Get over yourself, said the redwood. Throw an acorn down the hill, spread roots, bend a bough, snap a twig. Photo freaking synthesize. And so the oak shifted in the wind, shrugged off a flurry of gnats, dropped some leaves, creaked a few times, cast a long shadow, and fantasized about life next to a pretty little flowering dogwood. Until the next morning when the sun peeked over the hill. Here we are again, said the redwood. The next one is called A View from Horizontal. You are flat on your back. The sun's so bright you keep your eyes closed, but you hear voices discussing you and why you happen to be in that particular position in such a public place. Someone conjectures that you fainted. Another grumbles, overdose. Another says, can you hear me? And yet another kicks your foot to see if you will twitch. You listen for your name to put yourself in context. Trace your steps to a time before this flat on back predicament, to a scene in which you didn't have to hope that at least one of those gawking someones is a friend. You consider fluttering an eyelash, moving an appendage, but can't wrap your mind around that effort. What if the synapses have dead-ended and this is your permanent state, absorbing the world, floating on voices, ascending the drift of a dream? You try to picture the pathway leading from a dim lit past through a present now fraught with an audacious exposure. At least you're laid out on the ground, not the confines of a coffin. You feel no pain. The only discomfort lies in those rubberneckers, wondering if you are horizontal by choice or by misfortune, wondering, give aid or summon the authorities. Maybe you're not on the sidewalk at all, but on a yoga mat. Perhaps you've ascended the usual end of flow stupor to achieve a perfect bliss. Ah, yes, Shavasana. Avoid overthinking. Meditate an inch or two. Wouldn't that send a shiver through the crowd? The next one is called Free Brain Applesauce. For days, or is it longer, I've sought to remind me of who I am, or rather who I was, because please tell me if I've told you, I have someone else's brain but no intrinsic memories. I find me in a space of nothingness, sounds without interpretation, colors that bring wonder without knowledge. The girl who calls herself my daughter shuffles through a stack of pictures she calls parents. A sweet-eyed woman with a tiny waist beside a man with wavy hair who holds a messy, squalling infant that the girl who says she is my daughter says is me. I want my old brain back, I protest, but my words spout forth in iridescent bubbles, tumbling out of reach and popping into nothingness. She frowns, no going back, but at least that's what I think she says, my dissipating brainwaves drifting free to cracks and corners of the room. Once a brain is swapped, a brain is swapped, apparently. She who claims to be my daughter shovels in a spoonful, gooey pablum she calls applesauce. I suspend it on my tongue before I swallow, savoring the tart, sweet tang. It's lumpy Globules caress my mouth and travel down my throat. I try hard to keep the memory of its fading summer essence. The woman in the mirror glares, white hair wispy like a ruined spider web. She the wretch who stole my brain and left me with this derelict? Go ahead, you sorry bitch. Eat my applesauce. That's it, says she who calls herself my daughter, mother, sister, spouse. Again now, open wide, open wide, open wide. The next one is called The Final Count. Julia Malafortuna, escort to the underworld, is briskly efficient, carrying out her job in a professional, no-nonsense way that has won high praise in an industry not normally given to fanfare. She prides herself in facilitating honest transitions. Those seeking redemption and pearly gates must go elsewhere. Conscript an angel, she'll say. Those with fewer presumptions can expect a quick, comfortable transport to eternal drop-off, with assurances that death is sometimes preferable to life. Ophelia has no repeat clients, so complaints are few. In late October, following months made arduous by COVID, fires, and other misfortunes, a text for another pickup comes in. Miss Alice G, client number 5432. Revved up on pumpkin latte and extra whipped cream, Ophelia swoops in on Miss Alice, who, while defying a flashing "Don't Walk" sign, had been sideswiped by a cement truck, sending her cane flying in one direction and her patent leather purse in another. As Ophelia's usually deft fingers poise to nab Miss Alice's soul, she notices a flutter of eyelashes, a frown. Ain't dead yet, says Miss Alice. Can't die before the election, so ply your dubious trade elsewhere. This excuse has been tried before. Ophelia is ready. Ever hear early voting? She countered. Miss Alice shoos the grasping hand away, burrows into her pillow. If I'm dead before the final count, my vote could be disqualified. She waggles a mangled finger. Either get yourself gone or take off that morbid veil and wait. It's all the same to me. Ophelia checks messages, reviews client lists. She's made her quota for the month, thank you very much, Madam Corona. But a fail on a normally easy pickup, a little late for God's sake, would affect her overall rating. Ophelia has a reputation to consider. She turns on Alice's TV and settles into the guest chair beside the hospital bed. Election day arrives. Ophelia Malafortuna, eyes glazed from a barrage of political punditry, pharmaceutical commercials, and the eagerly articulated details of the long life history of one Miss Alice G, unfolds her stiff legs from the chair. She spritzes her hands with sanitizer, opens a little silk purse labeled 5,432, prepares to claim her prize. Not so fast, says Miss Alice from somewhere inside the body cast. Election results have been challenged. Ophelia has ignored the incessant texts ascertaining the whereabouts of the pending Miss Alice package. A resolution could take days, maybe weeks, she protests. Does Miss Alice think she is the only client requiring Ophelia's services? Not my problem, Miss Alice retorts. Ophelia Malafortuna sighs, once more drops purse number 5,432, still empty, into her left breast pocket. Charges for pinging cell phone. Longs for a pumpkin latte, extra rich cream. This one's called The Finger. I got flipped off in the parking lot the other day. Don't know for sure my transgression, but it was probably the guy backing out of his spot as I drove past. Didn't think of yielding. Not that I have an aversion to stopping in that situation. If I'd seen him on time, I probably would have let him complete his maneuver. Moments later, he pulled up beside me in the parking lot exit. His old blue Ford, covered in stickers, statement car, turning right while I turned left. I glanced over and there it was, the finger, big knuckled hand, grimy fingernail, scrunched up face to go with it. Mouthing something succinct, devoid of adjectives, couldn't hear the words, but I read lips. I checked traffic, caught his gaze again. This time, two middle fingers, one on each hand, steering with his knees, no doubt. I inventoried emotional responses, none of them appropriate. Fear, shame, remorse, and yes, even mirth. He tore off to the right and down the street, and I waited for the traffic to clear twice. Wary of inciting another middle finger indictment. I swear, I'm not a bad driver. None of the 4 times my Pinto got rear-ended was my fault. I've only totaled one car. A friend did tell me once I drive like old people thought. We were both in our mid-20s at the time, so I'm not sure how she knew those specifics. I think she was referring to the on the gas, off the gas thing she claimed I did. I still don't know if that's how old people do it, though I'm willing to put in the research. Perhaps that stiff digit is not so much about failure to yield as about people who look like me, people my age, people who drive white Priuses with intact catalytic converters. Or maybe it was more about him, his overground bank account, his persistent sleep apnea, his premature bald spot. That's me being magnanimous without accepting blame. That's me explaining why I'm stopping mid-block so you can jaywalk. This one's called The Goyles. A friend who knows me better than most gave me a pair of gargoyles for my birthday. Apparently, she thinks I need to be defended from evil, something gargoyles are especially good at. I know if I were evil, I would not mess with them. One wrong move ripped to shreds. These particular gargoyles are the size of a chihuahua, crouching low, fangs bared, coiled for action. Their bat-like wingspan measures 12 inches from one pointy end to the other. They are a heavy gray resin, solid enough to kill simply by falling on you, although that is clearly not their preferred method of dealing mayhem. I Google gargoyles for information, but the internet mainly wants to sell me more gargoyles. I am informed, however, that they need to be set up outside, since that apparently is the direction from which most evildoers approach. But stationing them over the front door might repel Amazon and otherwise friendly acquaintances. Instead, I perch them high on a cabinet facing the kitchen to ward off bad cooking. The Goyles, clearly female, are called Trixie and Precious. This after hours of throwing around names like Tiffany and Mavis and Queeno. I am bothered by the chains around their necks. It's for the best, I am assured, since they are prone to impulsive, socially unacceptable behavior. Then there's a question of meals. Do Trixie and Precious require frequent snacks and malevolent offender body parts? Should I increase my liability insurance? People get litigious after they're spontaneously ripped to shreds. You worry too much, says my friends. The chains. That's why, the chains. And this is the last one. Called JJ Doubles Down. JJ went all gaga over cha-cha in the morning. It was hush-hush because the can-can was the rage. Just a thought that you might poo-poo how she'd rock out in a moo-moo like the who's who of the girly stage. JJ also got her ha-has with some alcoholic rah-rahs when she took her little choo-choo into town. She'd meet up with Mimi, Gigi, Lulu, Fifi, Coco, Kiki, and their buddy pal, Bobo the clown. Little JJ was no dodo who defied a curfew, no, cause her mama and her papa paid the rent. On the homing of the moo-moos, she'd pack up her frou-frou tutu and would murmur, nighty-night, bye-bye, I'm spent. One day she wore some bling-bling from a graduate of Sing Sing, and her goody-goody two-shoes guise was blown. When the gems inspired some boo-boo, her excuses sounded woo-woo, and Miss JJ had to flee to parts unknown. JJ never wasted blah blah over coulda, shoulda, caca, and she never let a bonbon go uneaten. So she wouldn't let this boo-boo turn her juju into doo-doo. I'll win, she say. Nay, I won't be beaten. With her 20/20 vision for discerning bad decisions, she was 50-50 for eluding scrapes. But old JJ wasn't so she rallied for a go-go, and she stole a little putt-putt and escaped. The end. And that is